Hi, and welcome back. I want to talk today about something that happens to almost every leader I've worked with, and almost nobody warns you about it. You get promoted. You've earned it. And instead of feeling more capable, you feel less capable. You're working longer hours, you're more exhausted, and somehow you're less effective than you were in the role you just left. If you stick with me for the next few minutes, you'll walk away with a different way to think about why that happens. One story that might sound uncomfortably familiar, and a question that will show you exactly where this is showing up for you right now. This isn't a productivity problem you can fix with a better calendar. It's something deeper. And once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere in your own week and in the leaders around you. This isn't about discipline. It isn't about time management. I've sat across the table from capable, smart, well-intentioned leaders for over 30 years in engineering firms, hospitals, IT departments, construction, mining sites. The industry doesn't matter. The pattern is identical every time. You were brilliant at your old job. That's exactly why you got promoted. And now, without anyone telling you, the very thing that made you brilliant has quietly started working against you. You're first to answer every message. You're still checking your team's work before it goes out the door. You've told yourself it's just until things settle down. Except they never seem to settle down. I've watched it happen to a warehouse supervisor who still personally repacks every pallet that comes back mislabeled, and to a software team lead who still writes the trickiest ticket herself at midnight rather than walk a junior developer through it twice. Different tools, same reflex. The moment complexity shows up, the safest feeling move is always to reach for the thing you already know how to do well yourself. Here's the part almost nobody explains properly. When you were promoted, you didn't get handed a new set of instructions. You got handed a new job title and left to figure out the rest using the only playbook you had, the one that made you good at your old role. Think about a football team for a second. Your best player, the one who reads the game better than anyone else, gets pulled off the field and handed a whistle. Suddenly, they're the coach. Now, nobody expects that player to keep playing. Everyone understands the job has changed completely. They're not out there scoring anymore. Their job is to make everyone else better, to see patterns across the whole field, to develop players they'll never personally outscore. But that's not what happens to most new leaders. You get promoted and you're still expected by your organization, and usually by yourself and your team, to keep playing, keep solving, keep being the one with the answer. Nobody hands you a whistle. You just quietly keep wearing the boots, and everyone, including you, quietly agrees to pretend that nothing has actually changed. It happens in every profession. The nurse who gets promoted to unit manager and is still the one running to every bedside emergency. The engineer who becomes team lead and is still the one who reviews every drawing personally at 10 o'clock at night, because it's genuinely faster than explaining what to look for. The accountant who becomes a partner and still does the numbers herself before she'll sign off on anyone else's work. Different industries, same story. Someone hands them a whistle and they quietly lace their boots back up instead. I worked with a leader a while back, sharp, technically excellent, promoted to run the team she'd been part of for years. 6 months in, she was still the one fixing every error before it went out the door. Her team had stopped even trying to catch their own mistakes because they knew she would do it. Her diary was always full, her inbox was worse, and she told me almost apologetically that she didn't feel like a leader at all. She felt like the most senior technician in the building. She wasn't lazy, and she wasn't a bad leader. She was doing exactly what made her successful for the 10 years before that promotion. Nobody had ever asked her to stop doing that. Nobody had ever told her the job itself had changed. That's the trap. The way you see yourself as a leader gets built in that very first leadership role. Usually it's a frontline leadership role where you're promoted because you were the best technical performer on the team. In that role, being a good leader looked like being the expert, having the answer, catching the mistake before everyone else did. Nobody told you that was wrong. It worked, and it worked in that role. People even called you a good leader because of it. The problem is that version of good leader doesn't update itself when your responsibilities change. It sits underneath, running quietly, shaping what you do without you ever deciding it on purpose. So you keep playing. You keep solving problems that aren't yours to solve anymore. You keep being the expert in a role that actually needs you to build other experts, not be one. That's the stall. Not a lack of ambition, not a lack of intelligence, and not a lack of effort. If anything, you're working harder than ever. It's an identity that hasn't caught up with the role. And here's the part that makes it worse. While you're busy being the most senior technician in the building, your team is quietly learning that they don't need to do anything. They don't need to develop their own judgment because you'll always be there to catch what they miss. You're not just stalling your own growth, you're capping theirs without meaning to, simply by being so good at the job you're not supposed to be doing anymore. What finally shifted for her wasn't a course or a conversation with HR. It was a Friday when she was out sick and a junior team member caught an error she would have caught herself, flagged it and fixed it before it even reached the client. She came back Monday to find out about it secondhand, from someone else's message, not from her own inbox. That was the first time in 6 months she'd learned about a mistake being caught without being the one who actually caught it. And it unsettled her more than she expected, because some part of her had quietly been measuring her own value by exactly that. So here's what I'd like you to notice this week. Watch how often you're the one solving the problem instead of asking the question that helps someone else solve it. Notice how it feels when you resist stepping in. That pull to fix it yourself is worth paying attention to, because it's rarely about the task. It's about which version of good leader you're still trying to be. That single pattern will tell you more about where you're stuck than almost any amount of leadership advice. If this is resonating, I've put together something called the Leader's Identity Blueprint. It's $1. It takes about 20 minutes, and it will show you exactly why this happens, where your own leadership identity actually came from, and what to do about it. I'll leave the link below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.